Okay, got it. All right, so we've started recording here. So basically, what I know about Warhammer can be boiled down to just, a handful of things. I know it's a tabletop war game. Um, I've seen a couple of YouTube videos where people set up basically massive terrains where they'll bring their armies to do battle, basically. Um,
Yeah.
as far as the history, or like I should say the lore goes, I know that it started roughly like 80 plus thousand years ago. There was primal beings, which were essentially gods. And at some point, they disappeared. Different species kind of came up and took place. And there's been basically fighting ever since. I know one or two things about the Emperor of Mankind and his crusades, but
Yeah.
not an awful lot to go to just to say that I basically know a small synopsis.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we begin? And there's no intro. Yeah. There's no intro. Oh dear. We could try an intro. Nah, Solid. This is the intro. Solid. What you said there was the intro.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not. This was sort of like an afterthought. I didn't realize anyone would actually, take me up on the offer. So yeah. So there's like a billion different armies. Well, in reality, you have your general sort of army. You have Chaos Imperial and Xenos.
Mm-hmm.
Xenos being like aliens. So like you've got your Tyranids, which are basically giant intergalactic Pac-Man. You got your Tau, which I just hate the Tau. The Tau are shit. I hate the Tau. It's like, oh, by the way, we made an army that's non-melee, but they can shoot you off the board from 30 miles away. We record this again because I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm like quite nervous.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh dear. Yeah. All right. So should we record that again?
Yeah, sure. Let's start from the beginning then. So,
Sorry about that.
no worries. So, for starters, the basics that I know about Warhammer, it's a tabletop war game, and basically, I've seen a few YouTube videos where I see people just set up massive tabletop states where it's just terrain where they bring all of their armies to do war against each other. I know a little bit of the lore. That the story behind it roughly starts at about 80,000 years ago. We got old godlike creatures that were there at the beginning, and we have races that were born from them or were born from the chaos of the early universe. Fast forward a long time, we have humanity shows up at some point. There's something about the Emperor of Mankind and how he leads all these crusades against different factions in this universe. And some interesting stuff happens in there. I remember there was a point where they had artificial intelligence, and these men of iron were
Men of Iron. Yeah.
were kind of really scary guys.
Yeah, they basically they might have because of the Men of Iron. It's sort of one of the reasons why there's no AI allowed.
That's right.
40k because the AI basically went all Skynet and went, you know what, fuck humans, and just nuked itself.
As Skynet things tend to do.
It didn't just nuke Earth; it also nuked a lot of other planets. The only planet sort of safe was Mars because all the Admechs saw what was going on and went, yeah, we're just going to hide underground. Good luck. Bye.
Yeah. So it's quite a history of war from what I get. I always kind of assumed that it would play a lot like Dungeons and Dragons, but
that would make it simple.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I figured that I'm missing the mark.
there's like a never-ending list of lore. I mean, the Horus Heresy, which is like the prequel series to the events of 40k,
Yeah.
has about 50 ongoing books. Something ridiculous.
Oh man.
It's like 52 books or something stupid, but only 11 of them are actually decent because a lot of it is just faffing. It's like, oh, and then a Primarch had something for lunch. Oh, we really needed to know that. Oh. So saying that, there's currently the Siege of Terror series, which I haven't gotten around to reading yet because I'm still currently trying to catch up with the Primarch books that are dropping. There's a lot of books. There's the Cassius Kane novels. There's the Commander Gaunt novels.
Oh, so there's
The
novels
Commissar
too.
Gaunt novels. Oh, there's a fuck ton of novels. There's the Horus Heresy novels, as already stated. There's the War of the Beast novels. There's the fucking Death Watch novel, which is about the size of 2 Bibles strapped together. It's just, there's a point where you think, all right then, why do we need all of this lore?
It makes for a rich universe, I would say.
So there's a rich universe, and then there's like 52 prequel books, and like a billion other books happening during the heresy. You do quickly get overwhelmed, and like with every tabletop game, there's these books called codexes, which have the rules for your army. However, inside these codexes are more lore. So you open it up, and it's like, oh, by the way, your army did all this, and then it gives you like a summary. It's not a summary; it's another fucking novel inside a book. It's like another novel inside a rule book. In fact, hang on.
Yeah.
I have with me the 9th edition. And there, I've got with me the 9th edition Codex for Space Marines here. And so for example, with the Primaris Captain, you get all the rules, but underneath, it says, leading strike forces of Space Marines from the front lines. Captains exemplify the strength and skill of the warriors under their command. They are paragons of strategic genius with centuries of battlefield experience. And their great deeds are often rewarded with ancient artifacts drawn from the chapter's vaults. Now, you're probably wondering, what's a chapter vault?
I am wondering.
It's just... I mean, we both do horror narrations, but you can easily make like a 2-hour narration of just Warhammer lore from this one codex.
Holy cow.
And I have toyed with the idea, but my voice isn't menacing enough. Because you need to have like a really old man menacing voice to narrate anything Warhammer.
It does sound kind of like it would benefit from being from sounding kind of old and grizzled, like you've been at war forever, right? Yeah. I feel like that would be very fitting. So I guess for starters, we could kind of discuss how is the game played, out of curiosity, because this is the one thing where I'm like,
okay. The game is right. The game is a lot better than it was in 7th edition. So, listening that tried getting into Warhammer for 7th edition, it's now been streamlined. It's now a lot better, in my opinion. Though lots of people still like 7th edition. Yeah, no, 7th edition was a pain in my ass. But 8th edition, it works like this. I actually have a shit ton of models with me, so I can, use examples.
Okay.
So each model has a movement of, well, depends what you pick. So if you pick something like a Terminator, you can move it, say, 5 inches. But you can also roll to advance, so you can roll dice, and whatever you get on the dice, you just add that total to the movement roll. Shooting, Most models hit on 3s, some hit on 4s, some hit on 5s. I'm not explaining this well. It's very simple. It's mostly objective based. However, you can choose your own objectives. So, for example, three side objectives would be like to kill all the enemy psychers, to deploy or not deploy, to push up on the enemy, or like just to capture this point, or to cast a psychic spell. So yeah, there's a lot. It's very. I don't want to say simplistic because I'm terrible at explaining stuff, but it's a lot easier than it was. So, for example, say you got like an orc war boss. Now,
Okay.
he might have a ballistic skill of a 5, which means you would need a 5 and a 6 to hit. He has a weapon skill of a 2, which means you can hit on a 2, 3, 4, 5, you know. So basically, you might hit really badly, or like one of your units might be completely shit at shooting, but might be really good at melee.
Okay.
Unless you're collecting Space Marines, which is like they're decently average at everything, Space Marines.
Okay.
Especially if you collect Ultramarines. I mean, each Space Marine chapter has their own special unit and special rules they have. So my current project of Black Templars, they all all of my Black Templars really hurt in melee. However, shooting, no. I don't think I have anything in my army that can shoot well. I've opted for a really melee-only army.
Okay.
Everything is a pistol.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of different ways that you can basically build your army. So, would you say that each class of character would specialize, or I would say, would you only be able to build your army using certain factions? Like, for example,
yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna say, so like, for example, certain classes of characters are at war with each other, so they wouldn't be in the same army. Or would it be like, say, for example, if you got like a human army, there's different kinds of humans with different kinds of abilities that help mitigate weaknesses and stuff like that.
You can sort of combine your army. Obviously, you can't put. See, each army falls into 3 main categories of Xenos, Chaos, and Imperial.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, Imperial can't really work with Xenos or Chaos. However, you can have a detachment. So, for example, if I have a Space Marine army, but I want to put a detachment of Imperial Guard, of like an Imperial Guard squad, I would have to pay a command point. So I can, or I think it's dependent if it's like a simple patrol squad. Oh god, I'm trying to remember this now. I think it's 2 command points for. It's either 2 or 3 command points for like a small patrol detachment. Because they both got the Imperial keyword, you can put them in together. But one detachment has their own stratagems and rules, and and the Space Marine army is your main army, so you can't really Space Marine rules on your Imperial Guard.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Xenos, you can't. The annoying thing about Xenos is that none of the armies work together.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have like an Orc and a Tyranid work together. So Xenos are sort of like their own little army.
Okay.
Own little armies. So you have your Eldar, which Eldar annoy the shit out of me because it's like, oh, you hit my I don't know, simple infantry unit on 2s because I'm only toughness 3. Because of hijinks, fuck you. You now have to wound me on 4s.
Okay.
There's lots of janky rules in Warhammer.
I got you. So
And I
basically, what
like
ends up happening is all of them, I guess, would have like these different abilities that you can cheese just to kind of fuck around with your opponents. Is that something I'm understanding right?
yeah, there's each army has a sort of each army is equally overpowered. So you know how I don't know. Have you ever played Halo War? Have you ever played Halo Wars?
I know I haven't.
Well, there was like there was you could cheese that game if you just I'm trying to remember. It's been a while, but I remember on the Xbox 360 you could cheese the entire game just by spamming like infinite sort of quad bikes. In Warhammer, you can sort of cheese the game by just spamming like lots of fast moving things and just have things flying up to the enemy quickly in like turn one. However, each army has their own defense against certain cheesiness, so it becomes like who's the cheesiest army. So,
I see.
for
I see.
example, it's like when you were younger and like you were trying to win an imaginary fight. Like, oh well, this person can beat that person because this person can't die. Well, this person has an anti-death field for my character, so we can't die. Well, it's sort of like it gets to a point where like each army is so ridiculously broken that it sort of balances itself out.
I see
And
what
for
you're
the
saying.
most part, it balances it out.
Okay.
For the most part, unless you play knights. I have got a Chaos Knight, which is like this big fuck off robot thing.
Uh-huh.
However, you can only take three of them. So good luck trying to hold objectives with only three
No.
models on the board. Oh dear. Yeah, what you would do with like knights is put them in a separate detachment, then just bonk them down with your main army.
Uh-huh.
Which my main Chaos army is Death Guard.
It's what,
and
I'm
Death
sorry?
Guard got their new Codex. And my main Chaos, I've got a few armies, but my main Chaos army is Death Guard
Oh, okay.
because no, yes, yeah. There's four Chaos armies in particular that worship gods,
Okay.
and you don't really, and you can't really, well, you can mix match them. Have a detachment of 1,000 Suns with a detachment of Death Guard. However, it then becomes sort of, it doesn't really work that well.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to combine armies, you would choose sort of a Chaos Undivided army. So, Night Lords. Who else is Chaos? Word Bearers, Iron Warriors, Black Legion. Sort of that sort of ballpark where you can just use overall Chaos rather than just one specific.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And go on. Sorry.
sorry. It's just the more you're describing it, the more I'm kind of getting this picture in my head of how it works. So, basically, let's see. Each character unit has a certain way that it can move, and it has a certain hit zone, right? Like whenever it attacks, it has a certain manner in which it attacks. Like it could do a line or maybe a cone or an area of effect attack, stuff like that.
Seventh edition used to have. I think it was seventh or sixth edition that used to have cones, but now it's like if you're in range. So, for example, if you've got a gun that fires 12 inches,
Mm-hmm.
anything within 12 inches, as long as you can see it, like the model's line of sight, you can shoot at it rather than it being a cone. So yeah, as long as you're in range, or if you're obviously playing a melee character, as long as you're like within 1 inch of another guy, you can just twat the fucker, which is my preferred way of playing. It's so good playing melee armies because why have guns when you have fists?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like,
Those don't need reloading.
yeah, you don't need a reload. Tyrannid army might be the most might be my army with the most guns. And people play Tyranids Horde like they would have with Tyranids. Think Intergalactic Pac-Man. Basically, Tyranids in the lore work like they work like this. Basically, a giant fuck-off ship called a hive ship flies over a planet.
Mhm.
It shits out these little spores. People on the planet start eating the spores. Then over like a few years, after these people, breed and have children, the children then become more and more fucked up until they become gene stealers.
Oh.
Then there's gene stealer cults.
Holy cow.
Gene stealer cults basically worship Tyranids as sort of gods and wait for the hive ship to come. Then the hive ship flies back to the planet, shits out the Tyranids. The Tyranids go, ooh, food, eat, nom. Oh. Basically, it's like Homer and Donut Hell. Just like a never-ending list of
Wow.
And then the hive ship sees this. It then lowers itself and then starts eating the entire planet.
Oh I'd heard that it can get really dark. Like,
wait till I start talking about the womb factories. It's so dark. Like there's some parts in Warhammer which I look at and I think, oh, that's funny, and then there's other parts where I think that's just trying to be edgy, like womb factories, where it's like, oh yeah, the Imperial Guard need loads of soldiers on this one planet. I think the Deathcore Krieg uses womb factories as well as, I think for a little bit, Iron Warriors, which was this Chaos Legion, tried making their own Chaos Space Marines out of a womb factory. Mm-hmm. And it's as unpleasant as it sounds. But what happens is, like, say an Imperial planet needs, I don't know, more soldiers. Instead of waiting for people to just shit out babies, why don't you just build a factory that automatically shits out babies? You don't even have a name. Who cares? Baby's basically a gun with legs anyway. Let's just send the fucker out.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think
it's just a little edgy.
Yeah. Oh, it's. I think they wait until like there's some Imperial legions that do use child soldiers as well, and some it's just it's like, how old are you? I'm 8. Oh, can you fire this gun? Yes, you're in the guard now, kid. And then like 10 minutes later, the kid will probably get eaten alive, and that's the nicest thing that could happen to the kid.
So you're not trying to win a specific, what's it called? Strictly speaking, by the quality of your army. You're just trying to like throw hordes of soldiers at your enemy until they're just basically overwhelmed, right?
Yeah, the Imperial Guard basically works like, basically, the enemy doesn't have infinite ammo. Right. We have infinite men, women, and children that we can just lob into the guns. Our guts will jam up the guns, therefore we can then send in tanks that are like so cobbled together that it probably would just blow up in an instant. Like, there's a tank you can use in the Imperial Guard, which is, I forgot the name of the fucking tank, but it's the Hellfire tank? I forgot, but basically it's just a tank overloaded with flamethrowers.
Holy crap.
There's a lore description where basically no one would want to drive one of these apart from the sort of the people who are either done with living or have just snapped completely. Because to use these tanks effectively, you need to pelt it full force, try not to get shot, and then you just burn the enemy without getting shot yourself. It's like, it's similar. The Guard works almost as similar as how Orcs work, which I find kind of funny, because Orcs and the Guard are kind of similar. They're very much a infantry-heavy type army. not really that good at shooting or melee. Well, the guard aren't really designed for shooting or melee, to be fair.
Mhm.
They've just got a shit ton of shots, and you can just let probability win. I mean, oh, you hit on 5s. Well, I've got 60 dice. Something's going to wound you.
So it's not a matter of if I'll hit, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a question.
And like, you can even... Yeah, sorry.
No worries. So to me, it sounds a little bit like it would play a lot like a tactical RPG, right? Where you're carefully maneuvering your troops. So that. Sorry, what was that?
Can play it as tactical as possible, or you can play it the fun way, which is I've got more men than you. I'm going to send all of them to their death so I can get 5 more victory points for holding this one objective.
So I guess you would you would kind of basically build your armies with that in mind, right? So there
like... Sorry, my end's really laggy.
Yeah, it's same here. Like sometimes I'm hearing you like just after I start speaking. Sorry.
Anyway, go on.
So I was gonna ask. So how would you go about building an army per se? So I would imagine that you would have a strategy that you want to use in mind, like for example, overwhelming with numbers or winning by superior firepower, etc. And then afterwards, you would just look for units that would fit that, or how would you go about it?
If you're looking to start a Warhammer army, start small. Don't buy don't buy 3 Chaos Knights or 3 Knights and bankrupt yourself. Look at it and go, I fucking hate this hobby. You need to start cheap.
Okay.
Now, so there's lots of armies. I mean, go for the army you think is coolest. So if you like the idea of playing as like undead skeletons that basically just want to sleep forever but were rudely awakened by the Imperium of Man, Chaos and Xenos, basically Necrons are just old men. Well, I could talk about the war in heaven. Or the war in heaven, I should say. But basically the Necrons are an interesting race, and they've got some really cool stories. But long story short, the Necrons used to be called the Necron tier. Their life sucked.
Oh, I remember these guys.
Were being exploited. Yeah, they were being exploited by the Catan.
Right.
And basically, this not the Catan. They were being exploited by like the higher ups. I think it was the Catan. I can't really remember. But then this god called the Deceiver came and went, "Oi, mate, do you want to overthrow the people being dicks to you?" And of course, all the Necron leader, who was the Silent King, went, "Yeah, sure, I'll help you. Yeah, this sounds like a giant idea, Mr. Deceiver. Oh boy, this sounds amazing." And then all of a sudden, like, the Deceiver and all the Catan basically went, "Oh, lovely," and then they set up giant fuck-off furnaces everywhere. I went, "By the way, your soul, it's now ours. Nom.
Oh, God.
Nom." The Necrons then got encased in, like, these metal shells, and for, like... Say you were a builder in the Necron tier world, say you were just a normal civilian, you were mind-wiped, your flesh is now gone, you're in a metal tomb.
Dang.
That's it.
It sounds a little bit like what do you call it, like the Cybermen from Doctor Who.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Yeah.
And then the Necrons, the Silent King and everyone else went, "You know what, Catans, fuck you." And then they just Ghostbusted all the Catans into like these little weird boxes or into these prisons.
Uh-huh.
You can use the Catan shards in game, so you can use these Catan gods in your game if you so wish, if you want.
Okay.
unless, and these Catan gods are now working for the Necrons.
So,
And
what's the catch that comes with that? Like, is there a particular cost that you have to pay or something like that?
I'll probably explain the Necrons really badly,
Hmm.
but this isn't so dedicated to Necrons. Instead, it's dedicated to random questions. Ooh. Yes. Also, it's 1:51 in the morning, but that's all right.
Oh, I got you.
Anyway, yeah, don't worry. I can go on for hours. So the trade-off is that you need to spend points. So each game you play, there's a certain number of points. So each model costs a point, but each weapon also costs a point. So, for example, if I wanted to bring a Space Marine captain with a Thunder Hammer and a shield, that's like 100 and something points, which is a lot of points, especially if it's like an 1,000-point game.
Mm-hmm.
The better the model, the more expensive it is.
Okay.
So you can bring Primarchs with you. You can bring Mortarion, Magnus the Red if you're. You can bring Mortarion with you, but that's 500 points. Or I think that's 470 or 500 points, which is a lot of fucking points. However, Mortarion, Strength 8, which is Strength 8, Toughness 8, which is the highest strength you can have in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, Toughness, might as well briefly explain what Toughness is. Toughness means that after you hit someone in the shooting phase, you can wound them. If you have more than... If your weapon has more strength than the target's toughness, you hit on 3s. If it's more than half, then you wound on 2s. If it's like same strength as the toughness, you hit on 4s. If the toughness of the target's better than the strength of the weapon, you wound on 5s. If it's more than half of the strength of the weapon, you wound on 6s.
Okay. So
Mortarion's pretty tough. I think unless you're shooting las cannons at him and like really high potent weaponry, not really going to wound him all that much. Also, he's got a 4-up invulnerable shield and the old style disgustingly resilient as well as the new one. So good luck trying to wound him. Also, he can fly and hits on 2s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He hits on 2s, and if you're playing infantry and there's a Mortarion, he wounds on 2s.
Holy cow.
His most wounds on 2s. So good.
Okay. So, as far as sorry, go ahead.
I was so named characters, obviously, like named characters in the lore, you can use some of the named characters on tabletop. However, because they're named, they do more like ridiculous shit. However, they're more points, and lots of people would prefer to make their own custom army, like normal captains and everything.
Right.
Which is what I'm doing with my Black Templars.
So your name characters would be like your legendary heroes, things like that, right? Like people who show up in the lore, stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can... So the Orcs have a guy called Gazgal Fraka. He's a giant fuck-off model now. He's like he's just a fat, chunky boy. He's expensive, points-wise and money-wise. But you can only wound him 4 times per phase, and he has 12 wounds. So you can wound him 4 times in shooting, 4 times in melee, and 4 times in psychic phase if you're lucky. Because he's also got an invulnerable save.
Okay.
And he also hits melee.
So, are you rolling dice for your attacks?
Yes, you roll dice, whether it's to advance, to charge. If you want to declare a charge, you roll 2 dice. Because you have to be at least in 12 inches of a charge.
Okay.
You roll 2 dice. If you roll 2 sixes, that adds up to 12, so you can charge in. I've done some same with shooting. You basically use a lot of dice.
Gotcha.
For psychic phase as well, you use dice for angry priest powers. You use dice.
Angry
Not
priest powers. What?
Chaplains. Space Marines have angry priests called chaplains. They're like psychers, only they don't use psychic powers. As I play Black Templars, my chaplains are fucking overpowered. Templars don't like using psychers. In the lore, it's like they don't like psychers at all. They will actively kill psychers. So if you're playing Black Templars, you're not allowed to use psychers. However, you can use chaplains. And to make the game slightly fairer on Black Templars players, these chaplains have basically a lot of angry priests swear words they can say, or like prayers they can say, and it buffs your army.
Oh,
one
shit.
of them being on one of my favorite one is like add 2 to charge rolls, and another one being on a 5 or a 6, you do not lose this wound if you're within 6 inches of the chaplain. And because the chaplain's like a HQ choice, you can also give a warlord trait, and you can buff the charge moves even more by adding it's either called frontline commander or something, but basically gives everyone in an area +1 to their charge, so you basically have a +3 to charge.
Okay, nice, very nice.
Yes, so if you're playing an infantry-based army, you basically can just yeet a whole bunch of infantry at someone's face in turn 1.
Very nice.
So first turn goes to me, and next thing it's like, I've already charged in. Yeah, good luck trying to fight that one. Each army has something they do really well. I think the best army is the Adeptus Custodes.
Mm-hmm.
They're cheap. They're cheap to buy. Points-wise, 2,000 points of Adeptus Custodes is 12 infantry models. However, Adeptus Custodes hits on 2s, wounds on 2s.
Oh my god.
I think they've got a 4 or 3 up in vulnerable save. They've got Terminator armor. They're tough. They don't have psychers. Just have really good shooting and really good melee.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because the Adeptus Custodes are the Emperor's own bodyguard, so you would expect them to be half decent. And what we used to do before the nerf to a Primarch called Roberto Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, yay! But I like the Ultra. Oh, I'm going to start rambling. Anyway, stick to the point, me. Basically, what people used to do would be take a small detachment of Adeptus Custodes with them, and just hide Guilliman behind that, because Guilliman used to buff all Imperial units, and Adeptus Custodes would have the Imperial keyword. So you basically just hide Guilliman behind a line of Adeptus Custodes, and good luck trying to get to him.
So, out of curiosity, now this is something that I've been kind of wondering: is there like for example, like a commander unit that if you were to take down the enemy's commander, the whole army falls apart or takes a huge loss or gets a huge handicap, something like that?
Yes, because this can be Primarchs, this can be like things, this can be like named characters. Primarchs, if you take away a Primarch, because of all the points, that's like nearly a half of their army just gone. You need to be careful what you bring with you as well. So it's all well and good having one really good unit, but if that goes and all you're left with is sort of like shit, then and you're sort of screwed unless you can hold objectives. But even the thing about Warhammer is that you can play tactically. I mean, there's tournament lists out there. You can play as tactically as you want. It works like XCOM. There's always a percentage that it will fuck up.
XCOM is exactly what I was having in mind earlier when I said it's like a tactical RPG. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking XCOM or Fire Emblem, either or.
Oh, it's like XCOM, and it's as punishing as XCOM. Like, if you roll a 1 and you're playing Adeptus Custodes, you roll a 1 for shooting, it sort of enters a realm of, shit, I guess this guy can't shoot, and I only got 10 other guys with me.
My God.
No. Oh, no. The same if you, like... There's certain weapons which will punish you if you fail to hit. So the biggest example I can think of is plasma weapons. You can shoot a plasma weapon normally, and it does -1. It does 1 damage, but it's quite strong.
Okay.
Or you can overcharge it. If you overcharge a plasma weapon, if you roll a 1, the user blows up. That model blows up. It dies.
Holy cow! That's quite the result for rolling a 1. Holy cow!
Yeah, it just blows up. Say if you, and you can re-roll that 1, but you need to spend a command point. So, is it worth losing a guy that shoots plasma, or would you rather let him die and save the command point for something else?
I gotcha.
Same with vehicles. Most vehicles, some Tyranids and some other units explode if you roll a 6 once that vehicle dies. And I've seen it wipe out an entire army. Someone brought an Imperial Guard army, nothing but tanks. Like, with Imperial Guard, you can play one of 2 ways. One of them is loads of infantry, good luck getting through all that. Another way is bring loads of tanks, because tanks are strong, they shoot well. However, if they explode, it's mortal wounds time, and I've seen chain reactions go off. Like, this guy that brought in the Imperial Guard army blew up 1 tank. Another tank of his was on 3 wounds. He rolled a 4. He took 4 mortal wounds, and he rolled another 6. That killed his, I think it was Lord Commissar and Commissar Yarrick. And then it was also in range of another tank that was on 6 wounds. He rolled another 6, and then he exploded that.
Oh my God. So I'm guessing that there are some strategies that are like high risk, high reward then, right? Like, you can invest your points into this. However, if it should go south, you're going to take some heavy casualties or something like that, right?
Well, yeah. For example, my wonderful Black Templar army that I'm currently working on. Sorry, I'm quite happy with how that's turning out. I've got lots of armies here that I'm just looking at, and I'm like, I painted that, I built that. And sorry, it's one of the best things about Warhammer is looking at all the things you painted and thinking, that was a good job. Sorry. But yeah, one of my armies is my Black Templar army, and that has got no dedicated shooting. It's all melee.
Okay.
There's pistols which you need to be in 12 inches to fire. and there's a couple of dreadnoughts, which are just really heavy punching units.
All right.
They're iron dreadnoughts, and they've just got melee weapons, as well as like a multi-melter and a storm bolter underneath.
Okay.
So when dealing with like ranged people, I've got to sort of have to rely on hopefully rolling sixes for charge for like advancing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Black Templars are really good because because each chapter has their own little rule. My Black Templars rule is that on a 5, if I lose a wound due to a mortal wound, so for example, if they get wounded in the psychic phase or some other weapon that causes mortal wounds, if I roll a 5 or a 6, I do not lose that wound. And I get to re-roll all charge rolls and all advance rolls as well.
Okay. I think I can see that. Now, me personally, like, I gotta say, these melee armies are the ones that sound the most interesting to me, because anytime that I play any kind of game where, you get to carry an army, overcoming opponents with overwhelming force is my favorite strategy. So, like, when you're
like orcs.
I would.
Love orcs.
Okay.
Orcs are just great, and I can happily spend forever talking about orcs.
Well, please hit me with it. I would love to know.
Oh, all right then. Orcs are basically angry fungus. They're mushrooms. Orcs are basically angry mushrooms that want to stomp on people, and they all have comedic British accents.
Oh, that's really
great. Cockney accents. And also, orcs work on the power of positivity and optimism. So, an orc will believe something will work, and it works. So, if an orc believes that painting themselves purple will turn them invisible, guess what? It will turn them invisible, because have you ever seen a purple orc? I didn't think so.
Oh my god, you know what? I think I've heard about these. I thought that they were a Dungeons and Dragons thing, but no. Okay, so they're a Warhammer thing?
Oh, you can't... Yeah, like, in the lore, you can. If you paint a vehicle red, the orcs will think it goes faster. Blue is a lucky colour.
Okay.
And, yeah, like, red and black is... like a really good color combination for the orcs, because that's the orc of Gazgal Fraka, who's like the big beefy orc. Orcs don't really shooting. They have some really weird weapons for shooting.
Okay.
When you're hitting on 5s and 6s, some of their weapons are just the weirdest things I've ever seen. There's a weapon called the Bubble Chucker. It's called the Bubble Chucker. It does D6 shots. Strength is D6, and AP minus is D6, and damage is D6. Everything about the weapon is random. So D6 basically means if you roll a dice, whatever you get on the face of the dice is how much that value is.
Right.
So you can have like a Strength 1 weapon, Strength 1 gun that does AP minus 5 and does 6 damage. So it's completely crap, but if you wound someone with it, it will automatically basically be hard to, fight back from.
I gotcha.
Also does D6 shots as well, so you can have 6 shots of Strength 1 or 1 shot of Strength 6. Can't really remember. I haven't got the Orcs Codex on me, sadly.
So, out of curiosity, I was watching some stuff on YouTube regarding the origins of certain species, and there was this notion that there was a lot of species that were actually subspecies of human, that they were born from. I think there was a point where space travel was all but impossible. So because everyone was so isolated, they kind of evolved in different ways in different parts of the universe. Were And I could have sworn that these orcs were a part of it, but you're telling me that they were actually just living fungus. Is that right?
Yes.
I got you.
Orcs are living fungus. And some races in Warhammer use the warp to get around.
The warp. Yes.
Yeah, the warp is basically... Have you ever watched the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? You know the tunnel scene where they just go into hell for like a few minutes, come out the other side, traumatized. Just imagine that. Just imagine the navigator is Willy Wonka, and the Space Marine or Imperial Guards are like all the people on the boat. That's the warp. It's basically you go in, you might get eaten by a demon if like anything breaks. The warp is really tetchy. It's like the worst experience because if a Geller field shuts off midway through traveling through the warp, you're fucked. If a navigator dies while traveling through the warp, you're fucked. If like a ship airlock opens up while you're in the warp, demons will just flood in and go, "Ooh, food, yes." If you've got psychers on board, that isn't the navigator. If you've got psychers on board and they start going a bit kill crazy, you're fucked. If you've got any sort of person on board that might be infected by Nurgle, you're fucked. The warp is basically the portal in hell that's in Willy Wonka and the Charlie Factory.
So it's a dice roll to even try in that case, right? Because you're basically taking your life into your own hands.
Yeah, it's a dice roll. Unless you're, like I said, usually Geller fields work. Navigator is probably the best they have to be. And psychers are either like calm or they freak out and start opening. Yeah, it's sort of a dice roll, but it's the only way the humans can travel. It's the only way the humans can travel, like, normally.
Okay.
In the universe. It's so sad. It's like even Space Marines can't use like fancy shit like the webway.
Mm-hmm.
The AdMech might have something. I'm not entirely sure, but the AdMech are incredibly sneaky. For example, during the War of the Beast, where the Orcs basically did this big war that happened, the AdMech looked at what was going on and just went, "You know what? Let's just leave the humans alone. Let's just leave the Imperial on its own. We just sit this one out." And they teleported one of their moons away. They've got really weird devices. like the AdMech just wanted to flee, so they teleported one of their moons away, and it caused the Imperium just to basically be really suspicious of the Adeptus Mechanicus. And they even tried hiding it at one point. It's like, why is one of your moons gone? It's not gone! We only had these moons. There's nothing here. You just teleported a moon away.
Oh my god.
I do like AdMech. I really do. The AdMech's another army that I have, and they're just fun. Like, the AdMech are sort of like the sneaky army. The only reason why the Imperium tolerates them is because if the AdMech went, "You know what, fuck you, we're not making your weapons anymore," the human race would just die. The Space Marines would just die. Everything would just die in an instant. Because you need the AdMech to make all your weapons. So if they start worshipping another god called the Omnisire, you just let them get on. You don't really say anything. You're like, "Oh, the Omnisire is cool. Please give me this gun, please. I need it. My family's starving to death, and I need this gun."
So
there's another. Oh yeah, I was about to say there's another thing that the Adeptus Mechanicus did.
Yeah, okay.
And that was Benazarius Call might have made an AI. He might have made an AI called Call Inferior.
Uh-huh.
And Call Inferior is like an answering machine, but Gilliman and everything and everybody else in the Space Marines is really suspicious of this answering machine because it's like, are you an AI? No, I'm just programmed. Look at me. Oh, Dark Imperium is a really good book because Gilliman just wants to see where Belisarius' Call is, because Gilliman wakes up like 10,000 years after having his throat slit by Fulgrim, who's now like a big Slaneshi demon, and he wakes up and he finds like the Imperium in tatters. He finds like the 1,000 Worlds, like they're not even part of the Imperium anymore. Or if they are, it's not like the Emperor's Imperium. So he has to play politics. So he goes to like all these planets and these governors, and he's like, "Can you help me?" And the governors are like, "No, we don't know who you are. Fuck you." And Gilliman just goes around being depressed. He's like, "Oh, what happened to the people that saved my life? Sorry, Gilliman, they're dead." Oh, but, are any of my brother Primarchs alive? There's Mortarion and Magnus. Oh, chaos though. I know. And there's Fulgrim. Oh, I'm gonna see Belisarius' Call. What's this robot? Hey, robot, have you seen where Belisarius' Call is? No. Oh. Like a never-ending. It's just a never-ending, depressing read of Gilliman just going from place to place, being sad because no one wants to listen to him. It's like, please help me. No. I'm just, like this is a Gilliman that I personally enjoy because there's like. You have depressed Gilliman, which we have now, which is just fantastic to read because he actually has to try and act normal, and he gets irrationally angry at like religious people who are worshipping his dad like a god.
Okay.
So he like priests and stuff, and everyone's like, "But we're just worshipping your dad." He can't do anything about it. And then there's like the Horus Heresy Gilliman, which is really cool because after Lorgar, who's like this giant Chaos Undivided mad priest now, who's just in the warp chilling, he's just meditating. Gilliman gets really angry at Lorgar after he betrays him, and he's like, "You're just a cunt, Lorgar. What are you doing on my ship?" Oh dear, I can talk forever about Warhammer and have it make no sense.
So, here's something that I was kind of thinking if you're interested, because it looks to me like there's going to be an awful lot to cover. So
there is.
What we could do is we could try to see if we can segment it off a little bit, like, just into like little chunks that are easily digestible and stuff, like, different races, different units, stuff like that.
I did ramble.
No, it's no problem. I mean, like that. This is good because that means there's a lot of content to make here. So
yeah, like someone's gonna watch this, wonder what the fuck this is, and then just switch off. I'm gonna title this video. I don't know. An orderly looks after a mental patient while he rambles about Warhammer for an obsessively long amount of time. Something like, Idiotic Synergy kidnapped a narrator and rambled about Warhammer for an idiotic amount of time.
But the narrator is perfectly entertained the entire time because this is some wow. I mean, like this is just massive. Which it's no surprise considering the game's been around for a lot longer than I thought. This was like early.
It's been around longer. It's been around even longer than me.
Yes, same.
Yeah, because I was born in 2000.
Yeah,
and the game used to be called Rogue Trader. Then they just fleshed up. Yeah, Rogue Trader was a weird time, Though it did have one of my favourite characters, though, that I read about, and it was an Inquisitor, which is like the Imperial secret police, because that's always nice to hear. And they're the good guys? Question mark.
I was gonna say, like, is that good guys like they're the good guys, or like, you know, they're quotation marks the good guys, you know?
There's lots of arguments.
Okay.
Some people will simply say that yes, the Imperium is good because the alternative is literally having your eyes sucked out by a giant Slaanesh demon with 10 pulsating penises or peni. And there are some people that are going, no, the good guys is obviously the Tyranids. They don't want to hurt people. They just want to eat. Just want to eat and be merry. Let the Tyranids. The Tyranids are probably the kindest race because they won't like kidnap you. They won't like do unspeakable things to you. They won't turn you into a chair. They won't like use the warp. Like Tyranids basically are just these slow-moving, hungry ships that just want to eat stuff.
Yeah, that, you know, compared to a lot of the other stuff that I've seen, that sounds relatively tame by comparison.
Yeah. And like the Tyranids are just they're just Zerg rushing throughout the entire universe of 40k, and who can blame them? I mean, look at them; they're adorable. They've got like they've got like a unit called Ripper Swarms who are like so tiny. They're like, I mean, compared to everything else, I would rather join a Gene Stealer cult. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, what's the deal with the Gene Stealer cult? Okay, we basically worship Tyranids until the Tyranids come and eat us. Awesome.
Perfect.
Hey, what about this Chaos cult? Oh, well, you have to sacrifice your Nan to, like, the great demon, or else the warp opens up and demons will just flood in, drag your soul into, like, the warp. You will just be played with. Okay, I'm going to join the Gene Stealer cult. They're kind. or you have the Tau, who the Tau are the one army I don't really know a lot about because I just find them boring. That's probably like blasphemy to some people, but I just find the Tau so dull because there's nothing. Like, people moan about Ultramarines being boring, but with the Ultramarines, before Matt Ward got his grubby fucking hands on it, the Ultramarines were really fucking cool. Like the Horus Heresy Ultramarines were really cool. There's a sergeant who was there was a sergeant in the Ultramarines who basically turned into the Doomslayer, and he might still be alive. There's Gilliman, who before Matt Ward basically made him the best person ever. There's lots of stuff that people before Matt Ward got his hands on it.
Matt Ward being the writer, is that right?
Yeah, Matt Ward, such shit. Matt Ward is like. Matt Ward, I'm going to put this as nicely as possible.
Okay.
Matt Ward is the humor of Warhammer.
Oh,
Matt
God.
Ward is like an infected cyst of Warhammer story writing.
Oh, my God.
Matt Ward is the scrotum pus-covered pimples of writing. He's just fucking awful.
Oh,
it's
my...
Like, he's just... I mean, he made the Grey Knights fucking boring. How do you make... Grey Knights are like Doom guys with magic powers. They are designed to enter the warp, kill demons, and basically be insane. Matt Ward turned this into, oh yeah, the Grey Knights are like the best. They're like super special space marines. That basically one of them, Calcador Drago, is linked to Mortarion. Oh, and by the way, Calcador Drago also killed Mortarion by tattooing his name into Mortarion's heart.
What?
Oh, Yeah, there's a story called Mortarian's Heart.
Okay.
Now, right, this might be a bit of a ranty thing, but fuck it, it's 2:30 in the morning, I don't care. Basically, there's a guy called Calcador Drago. He's just a space marine with a lot of psychic powers. Mortarian is a literal demon of plague and pestilence and pus. If you literally go near him, you will just die because his smell is that bad. He's basically leaking toxic aura. He's basically got the same amount of intensity as an ICBM nuke from the 1960s.
No, Lord.
It's just like this giant smelly demon thing, and he can fly, and he's got the big fuck off scythe. Calcador Drago is literally fuck all when it compared to like the demon. But because Matt Ward went, hey, I really like the Imperium. I really like having overpowered superheroes. Calcador Drago is going to somehow go through Mortarian, go through all of the demons Mortarian has, overpower Mortarian, and then tattoo like Mortarian's heart, like name into his heart with a sword. I mean, I will accept a lot of bullshit in Warhammer. I will accept that the orcs are angry funguses that work on the power of positive thinking. I will accept that Cato Sicarius is basically Jesus 2.0. A very arrogant Jesus, but he's basically Jesus. I will accept that Xenos players won't get an update. I will accept a lot of bullshit, but the one thing that breaks me is that this one stupid fucking chapter master twat manages to overpower a literal embodiment of Nurgle in the warp. Yeah.
So you basically walked into the warp, which is this guy's home plane. This is his home field, his house. Smacks him in the face and tells him to get out.
Pretty much.
Yeah. That does sound pretty ridiculous. I mean, I can't imagine that a lot of people were happy with the creative decisions he took here.
Oh, Matt Ward is to story writing what Jimmy Savile is to children's TV.
Oh God.
Maybe not that bad, but still pretty fucking terrible.
Oh my God.
I just fucking hate it. It's like, luckily though, on a good note, someone else has taken over the writing of Grey Knights.
Well, good.
Fuck. And they've retconned a lot of it. So basically, Grey Knights are now just angry Doom guys with psychic shenanigans, which is what they should have been from the very fucking start.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm happy about that. But reading Mortarian's Heart and basically, Calcador Drago's like the best space marine ever. Oh. And also he made Gilliman boring, which was... How do you make Gilliman fucking boring? It's like Gilliman... The Gilliman I read in like the Horus Heresy series is not the same Gilliman Matt Ward wrote. Because Gilliman in the Horus Heresy series was pretty much, I fucking hate Lorgar, I'm gonna fuck him up, I'm gonna punch down his throat and rip out his internal organs. Matt Ward's Gilliman is like, hi guys, I'm the best, the Ultramarines are the best, go us, woohoo.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much. Just.
I mean, I imagine that everyone just kind of seed a sigh of relief whenever Matt Ward was out of there. In that case,
I think he's now writing for Tyranids. I think he's still employed at Games Workshop because if there is a god, it's obviously dead. I think Matt Ward's now in charge of the Tyranids, which, don't worry, I'm pretty sure you cannot improve the Tyranids lore because I've got 2 codexes. one 7th edition Codex and one 8th edition Tyranid Codex.
Mm.
And in the stories, it tells of all the battles the Tyranids have been in. But on each and every single story the Tyranids are in, they have lost. And it even says, oh yes, the brave Blood Angels managed to fight off the never-ending horde of like the Tyranids. And then you read a bit more, oh yes, this Imperial Guardman managed to fight off 15 Tyranids with his bare knuckles. I collect Tyranids. Is there anything they do well? No, they just get shat on because you can't really do a story about Tyranids. You just can't.
Wow.
I mean, Tyranids are really simple. They just, I mean, Tyranids are just Tyranids. They just want to eat stuff. But Matt Ward's in charge, so I can't wait to see the Ultramarine Calcador Drago Tyranid killer, where it's basically this guy with a massive sword that looks like Matt Ward runs up to Tyranids and punches them in the face, and they just disappear into the warp. I don't know. Just Matt Ward is awful. He's an awful writer. One thing you should always be careful of when writing for like a series like this is make sure everything's overpowered, but make sure it's balanced, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, yes.
Like, have Space Marines do awesome shit, but don't make them seem like the objective best. Make sure they have weaknesses, make sure they have flaws, make sure that the casualties of the Marines are just great, but it's due to numbers. It's why I like Dark Imperium so much, and that book series, because Nurgle basically yeets the Ultramarines, pretty much. He basically just kills most of the Ultramarines, and the Ultramarines are, like, running away. Also, Necrons are waking up, and they're also killing the Ultramarines as well, so the Ultramarines are now in the spot of bother.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And because Gilliman is angry and depressed, you get awesome fight scenes with Gilliman now.
No, hey, that sounds like a good time.
Oh yeah, there's in Dark Imperium, he meets a giant demon of Nurgle, and he literally runs up to it and grabs it and like just slices it using his father's sword, and you're thinking, okay, this is cool. And he's like so enraged that he just slices everything. And like other like Ultramarines are like getting like hurt, and he's seeing all this, and he gets even angrier. And you think, okay, this is Gilliman I can get behind. An angry, depressed Gilliman that's basically fighting a never-ending swarm. This is the Gilliman I want. This is the Gilliman that I've been waiting for since the reintroduction of Abaddon as a spoiler, where basically Gilliman's just fucking angry. And I want Lorgar to come back, because a Gilliman versus Lorgar story now would be amazing. Or like have Lorgar basically crucify Ultramarines or do even more heinous shit to Gilliman, because that would be interesting. That would really be interesting.
Yeah, that actually sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
That was a little bit of a ramble.
Yeah, no worries.
Basically, oh dear. Ever since like Gilliman was involved in basically purging Lorgar's home planet when Lorgar was a loyalist, Lorgar and Gilliman have never been friends. Yeah. Fun fact.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to know why Lorgar's home planet was purged by the Emperor and Gilliman?
Why is that?
Because Lorgar and the Word Bearers were worshipping the Emperor like a god. That wasn't allowed during that wasn't allowed during like the Horus Heresy unification wars. You weren't allowed to worship the Emperor like a god, but Lorgar was like, hang on a minute, he's got a massive flaming sword, he's got psychic powers, how is he not a god? And he started worshipping, the Emperor like a god.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. There's even a bit, I forgot what story it comes from, but even a bit Oh fuck, I forgot the story. But there's like a small passage of like word bearers learning about the modern day the Imperium, and how they're all like over religious zealots, and all of them just start laughing their asses off because in the end they've won. like like they were vindicated. So they just started laughing their asses off, going, "Hang on, God Emperor, how come they're allowed when we got punished?" Oh, that's funny. Oh dear. I really do. I just like Lorgar's revenge plan. I think. Have I got the book with me? I hope so. Ow. No, this isn't it. That's Galaxy in Flames. That's the road. Sorry, I've got like a shit ton of books here.
No worries.
Yeah, the first Heretic was the book where basically Lorgar's home planet got killed. No Fear is the book where Lorgar gets his amazing revenge by basically Gilliman didn't know Lorgar and the word bearers turned traitor yet, so Gilliman and the word bearers, Gilliman and Lorgar, the word bearers, and the Ultramarines were all waiting for like an impending orc ambush. That never happened because it was falsified information. What instead happens is that a lot of word bearers hijack a massive fuck off ship that the Ultramarines brought with them, aimed the ship straight down at Gilliman's home planet or like city,
Okay.
like planet city, and just hit the acceleration button, causing the ship to explode into like a giant nuke. Gilliman starts freaking out because the word bearers, in all the confusion, starts opening fire into the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines are panicking and shitting themselves. Gilliman tries contacting Lorgar, and Lorgar's like, "By the way, this is for yeeting my entire planet, you dickweed." And what's even better is like during the space telephone call, Gilliman gets really angry at Lorgar, starts swearing at him. So Lorgar hangs up, and in like the hologram's place is like this giant fleshy demon that's just tentacles, eyes, and like giant in like the giant phone room where Gilliman is, and everybody's like, shitting themselves. It's like, why did they turn traitor? Meanwhile, the sergeant I briefly mentioned, who's basically turned into the Doom guy, picks up a giant power axe, climbs on top of the demon, and just swings at it madly. And the Ultramarines follow suit. It's like, okay, we can get behind him. He's awesome. And we don't know if he's still alive or not. I hope he comes back. I want there to be like a Wordbearer's Ultramarines book where the sergeant comes back. He's like really old, and he basically dies in like a last fight against the Wordbearers, and Gilliman just tries to avenge him. That would be awesome.
I actually would like to see that as well, yes.
Yes, like there's loads of books. There's also like the Imperial Guard books as well. The Cassius Kane novels are funny. Like, have you ever heard of Blackadder?
Yes, I have.
It's a UK TV.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Blackadder is just like this really cynical guy that tries getting out of really shit situations, and he's got like a really dumb friend called Baldric. And it's really funny because it's history. And my favourite one is Blackadder Goes Forth. It's set during World War One. And he's trying to get out of. Blackadder is trying to get out of going over the top. Anyway, very small digression about Blackadder, but the Cassius Kane novels is basically Blackadder in space. Cassius Kane is a commissar. Cassius Kane is basically a commissar trying to get out of frontline combat, and he accidentally becomes a hero each time. So, for example, there's a bunch of orcs coming, and Cassius Kane wants to hide from the battle. He then finds a cave. He then goes into the cave and finds Necrons there. and everyone treats Cassius Kane like this big hero who's like the biggest savior of them all, and like he's just the best commissar there ever was. And Cassius Kane is just incredibly lucky and unlucky at the same time. He's just like, I don't know why they keep worshipping me.
Oh,
I
that's
just want to
hilarious.
get out of frontline combat. And he's got like a friend called Jurgen with him.
Yeah.
And Jurgen's the funniest person ever. Because he's a blank. A blank basically means that psychic powers don't affect him.
Okay.
You're a blank. Like, demons can't touch you. Psychic powers can't touch you. You're basically invisible to psychic powers. However, Jurgen doesn't know he's a blank. He just stands next to Cassius Kane. And when demons try and possess Cassius Kane, or when people try and use psychic powers on him, it doesn't work on the Cassius Kane. So people think like Cassius Kane is like some sort of, he's either a blank or he's just immune to demons. It isn't. It's just Jurgen. He's just standing next to him, like, what? What's going on?
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Also, Jurgen's got the best backpack ever. It doesn't matter what situation you are in. He's always got an abundance of weapons. Like, for example, I think a guardsman says, I'm running out of ammunition. So Jurgen just gets like a flask of tea. He's got like a melter grenade. He's got like weapons in his backpack. He's got like really weird stuff in his backpack. And he's like, oh, I got ammunition for you. Where did you have that? It was in my bag.
What?
It's and just like this never-ending.
It's like Batman's utility belt, except this is, you have an answer for every situation.
Yeah, but it's like he's got a flask of tea with him at all times.
Oh god!
Oh, and yeah, really bad, so bad that other demons and stuff are just immediately repulsed by Jurgen and stuff. It's really fun. Like, Cassius Kane keeps him around because it's Jurgen. He needs someone to, like, bully and, help him out.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. There's the Cassius Kane novels. There's the Hellreach novel. There's Hellreach.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Hive City Hades during the War of the Beast. There's so much shit. That wasn't War of the Beast, Hive World Hades. No, that was the Armageddon War. War of the Beast was like the Horus Heresy, but with orcs instead of Primarchs. Ugh. There's so much shit in Warhammer.
Yeah, and I'm finding out more and more that there's more to it than what I initially thought. Because coming in, I was like, surely they released like these. The different books that highlight, key lore points, some history and stuff. But I had no clue that there was novels and stuff. So I guess the only thing that's missing is like some kind of televised media or something, like a TV show or movie.
On YouTube, have the What If the Emperor Has the Text-to-Speech series, which is really fun. You have Astartes, which recently got brought out by GW, which is a really good series. You've got the Death of Hope, and you've got a short film called Death of Hope, which is a really dark Warhammer animation. It's amazing, but it's really fucked up. And it's really good. And there's loads of like little animations everywhere about Warhammer. And,
they're on YouTube?
It's all good. Yeah, there's even like the official Ultramarines movie that's on YouTube.
No, I'll have to check that out.
No, don't. The Ultramarines movie. No.
No, don't do it.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Oh man, is it that dark? Or is it dark or is it bad?
It's boring. It's dull. It's basically the budget on like Hollywood voice actors, but they forgot one crucial thing: the animation.
Oh God.
It looks terrible. It looks like somebody made it in Unity, but it's not worth it. It's not that film. It's not worth it. And there's like lots of inconsistencies, like the banner, the fucking banner bearer in that film. My fucking god. The point of a banner bearer is literally just if you have a company and it's for morale mostly. What it doesn't do, it's not like a fucking radio. It's not like a chaos detector. It doesn't all of a sudden light up when chaos is near. It isn't like whoops, all chaos. Oh, and there's a thunder hammer. They have it's a relic. It's a thunder hammer, but because the film's called Warhammer for Space Marine, a Warhammer 40k movie or something, the thunder hammer is called the Warhammer. I have several about that. It's like, oh yes, the Warhammer, the infamous Warhammer, the relic of the of like the Ultramarines, the Warhammer.
Like,
yeah,
like very on the nose. I got it.
literally on the nose. Oh,
Yeah.
and everybody looks really old in that film, even though they're supposed to be like new recruits.
Uh-huh.
Everyone just looks really old in that film. Like the apothecary looks like he's about to keel over and die from a like heart attack of his two hearts simultaneously.
Damn.
Oh, it's just a terrible film.
Well, okay. So if that one's the terrible one, which one would you recommend?
There's only one Warhammer film.
Okay, so it's just this one?
It's just that's the official one.
Oh God.
I would recommend the YouTube animations. I would recommend Death of Hope.
Okay.
I would recommend the Emperor had text-to-speech. I would recommend the Astartes YouTube series.
Okay.
And I would recommend Voldemort, who's like a Warhammer narrator. He explains lore a lot better than what I could ever do, but he makes up short stories as well. So one of my personal favorites of his is the Night Lords one because it's fantastic. Night Lords are just fucked up, and he does them justice.
Oh, perfect. So let me ask you this: is there a chance that you might be able to forward me links to these?
Yes, I can.
Sweet. Because I'm actually gonna have to get off here in a second because I gotta go, attend to my wife who just got off work. So, just wanted to say, let's see what if you're interested, we can follow up next week. See if we can kind of focus on like a few different aspects, like certain parts of the history, or different races, different different armies, things like that, and we can just kind of like laser focus on a few of them, and do this again. Yeah, perfect.
Happily do this again.
All right, and so basically, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna process the MP3 for this recording, and I'm gonna send it your way. Do you have an email address where you would like for me to send this?
Can you not just send me the Google Drive link, or yeah, I've got an email actually.
Oh, yeah, I could send you the Google Drive link over Twitter if you'd like.
All right, then that work.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to have to get off now, but let's see. I think I'll be available at some point during the week. I don't know what my schedule is off the top of my head, so I'll send you a message as soon as I find out.
Will do.
All right, awesome. All right, well, thanks a lot for stopping by to talk, brother, and I'll talk to you later.
See you, mate.
All right,
send me the Google Drive.
Yeah, will do.
Thanks.
All right, later.
Thank you.